So, Jesse, what are we doing for season 4?
Didn't we just say that? Or were you recording a whole bunch of bumps?
Jesse, we're going to be doing something special for season 4.
Are you in a loop? Do you need a factory reset?
No. For season 4, we're going to be taking your questions, your creative questions from you, our curious gamer audience.
I think would be a good thing for our curious gamer audience to know
What's that?
how to get those questions to us.
What should they do if our curious gamer audience has a creative question for us for season 4? How can they get it to us?
They can email that question to jauntymantis@gmail.com.
Yeah. So enjoy this bonus episode, and we'll hopefully be seeing your question for season 4.
Hey, what's up, party people?
Jesus Christ. Ugh, Jesse.
How's it going?
Wow. This is the Jaunty Mantis, a podcast of bleeding ears and shattered eardrums.
Is that loud?
You took me by surprise.
Well, now that we may be a visual medium, that's going to be some great video right there.
Yeah, that'll make for an exciting intro.
Yes, an intro to this bonus episode of the Jaunty Mantis. Hi, we are the Jaunty Mantis. I'm Jesse.
I'm
With
Matty.
me is my he just introduced himself. Okay, great start.
I'm sorry, my heart is still beating uncontrollably.
Well, that's just called the Jesse effect. So
That's right. It's the
Yeah,
rich
there we go.
timbre of your vocals.
Yes, pre-Q. It's like
Mm-hmm.
pre-cum, but for EQ.
God.
I told you I was going to do more bits.
Well, it's a good bit. Yes.
And that one jumped up and bit ya.
Wow. Yes.
I don't know if you can tell, dear listener, but we are recording an hour and a half earlier than we normally do. And so it is still daylight and we are both awake.
Mm-hmm. And for your audio listeners, how the hell would you know when we're recording? Do you have some sort of magic power that can tell them by the sound and energy in our voice we are recording at a different hour?
Well, all of our listeners are magic, and they can tell us about that magic when they ask us questions for season 4, because season 4 is coming up. And in that season, we are going to be answering the creative question from curious gamers just like you. So if you have a question you'd like to hear us talk about or wax poetic on, or just really mess up on the air, feel free to email that question to jauntymantis@gmail.com. And just a tip, jaunty is Jaunty, not the way I spelled it when I set up our Twitter, Juanty, the Wanty Mantis. Yes, so going for a jaunt, spell it correctly. I'm afraid, listeners, you've been sending us emails and spelling it wrong, because when I look at our email inbox and see nothing there but marketing emails, I'm like, they must just be spelling it wrong.
Either that or we are systematically designed to repel listener email. Because please keep it brief.
Yep. It's a feature, not a bug. Hey, I got a question for you.
Oh, really?
Can I go right to the question, or do I need
Yeah.
to say creative questions, curious? I said that in the intro-ish thing. What's on your RPG bucket list?
Oh boy, am I glad that you asked this, because I texted you the other day because something had just occurred to me. I was like, I've said before on this podcast that I'm really not going to be playing a lot of Dungeons and Dragons in the future. I should say running Dungeons and Dragons in the future. If any of my gaming buddies wants to run a D&D game, I'm not going to be that guy who's like, well, I'm not going to play it because I'm an elitist prick now. No, I'll still play in a D&D game. I just don't want to run them anymore. But what I realized is that I have like a gaming bucket list.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay. And one of the things on that bucket list was either running or playing in a D&D game from level 1 to 20, which I have never done in the entirety of my gaming life.
I think there's like 200 people in the world tops who have done that in their gaming life.
Yeah, that's it seems like it's something that's exceptionally rare. Like I have asked around in my very limited circles when it comes to the gamers that I know. You know, some of them I haven't spoken to in years. I've just been like, "Oh, hi, it's me. Have you ever played at a D&D game from 1 to 20?" And most of them have said no. Most of them haven't made it past level 10.
Yeah. I think even in old like basic expert days or involving the rules cyclopedia, when there was a stretch in one summer where I was playing like every day, and I
Mhm.
think we only made it to level 15 and then we skipped to level 20 to try the Immortals content and it collapsed under the weight of trying to figure out ways to achieve godhood with our characters. So
Uh-huh. Hell yeah. I mean, I played a game at 20th level. You ran like I think the Bane Warrens in third edition for us, which was incredible. Monty Cook, you beautiful bastard. I
I
read your
called him
book.
that to his face at a Gen Con
I'm
in the
sure he
early aughts.
remembers.
Yeah. And I'm sure he's a fan of the show. So, hey, Monty.
Yes. I'm sure Montgomery Cook was like, "Oh, you, that guy in the early 2000s who said that thing to me that one time at Gen Con."
Yeah, your three greatest creations are Planescape, the Bane Warren's adventure for the Tollus campaign setting, and your World of Darkness. Someday you'll get the recognition for that, Monty. Monty Cook's World of Darkness. Look it up.
Oh boy.
It's the
Oh,
Garth Marenghi's Dark Place of the World of Darkness.
I like Garth Marenghi's Dark Place.
Yeah, I know.
It's such an awesome show.
It's
It's
the
the
accidental Garth Marenghi's Dark Place of the World of Darkness.
Garth Marenghi's Dark Place is a show that I put on occasionally, and my fiance will be like, "What are you watching?" And I'm like, "You ask me this every time. It's the same thing every time. I could put on anything, any show, and she would never be like, 'What are you watching?' But as soon as I put on Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, she's like, 'What are you watching?'"
He looked down at his hands. Blood, 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 and bits of sick. So you have a bucket list, level 1 to 20.
Yeah.
So again, and this is the thing I love about my co-host and best friend, because things that Matty has said on this show, I'm
Hmm.
so done with fifth edition.
I am.
I'm tired of this.
I am.
And now he has proposed, and we are going to attempt a level 1 to 20 campaign with him running it.
Yes, correct. And
With a
I've
rule set he's tired of.
yes, and
He's committed.
it'll be like my last hurrah for Dungeons and Dragons because I knew you were going to bring this up. I knew you were going to be like, "But wait, you said on the podcast you were done with 5th edition." And for the most part, I thought I was. But I still have this thing I really want to do, and I figured this is the time to do it.
Yeah, no,
Just
this is the thing that I don't think, having known you for the period of time I do, I don't think this is a inconsistent point of view or thing to happen. This is just the tipping of the scales. And it's like Matty in games and the statements he makes, it's like the
Mhm.
balancing of the scales in the Dragonlance campaign setting, where it must be balanced. It'll swing one way and then the other. We're just seeking balance now. And so to seek balance, unless you're going to correct me, Matt's going to run a D&D game for the next 5 years.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because and here's the part you were not privy to is, we're recording this after our episodes where I talked to you about the like one shot roguelike D&D experiment that I came up with up and ran for our group. And what I did in that game is I leveled the party very quickly in a session. Like the goal was to level them from 1 to level 4 by the end of the session. And that showed me that like I could really level 5e characters whenever I want. You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be experience based. It could be milestone and I could just set the milestones. And maybe this is part of a larger topic because in the past, I've always wanted to like stretch out the level. Like, okay, well, after about 2 to 3 sessions, that's when we should level up, or after about this many things happening in the story, that's when we should level up. Even though people generally don't like playing level 1 characters in Dungeons and Dragons, that's part of why they changed the way that they did from 3rd edition to 5th edition. So I plan to level these characters in this game at a much faster pace. So
Oh, thank God.
we will not be playing this game for the next 5 years. Like we will, like this will take a little while. It'll take a little bit. Don't get me wrong. And I did think about, is this going to seem hypocritical to the statements that I made on this podcast about how I'm done with it and I want to move on? But then there's this other part of me that's like, I feel like as soon as I make that break, I'll probably never go back. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And what are the chances that I'm going to play in a 1 to 20 game? I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Well, I mean, here's the thing too about the thing like about hypocritical is I learned this one of the important lessons of fatherhood. I learned this from Daniel Tiger is that you can be more than one thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can be more than one thing at different times and you can change your mind. So like, hey, in that moment you were feeling it. And now you're feeling like, I want to see what happens when we do this. And I
Yeah.
am here for it. And I already have a character concept. And I'm really worried because right before we hit record, the Discord where we're talking about this with the players was going ping, ping, ping. So I am excited, but also afraid that it's going to mess up my audio.
Really? Oh shit. Okay. Well, hopefully it doesn't, but we shall see.
Yeah.
Um, I think that that whoever this Daniel Tiger fellow, he's pretty wise, and whatever he's selling, I'm looking to buy it.
Okay.
As long as he's not racist. But
Yeah, I don't think Daniel Tiger's racist. He hasn't been canceled yet. There's an app you can download with all the songs. It has like a theme, and then you press it and it plays the song.
oh, I
Like when
didn't
you
realize
have
he
to
was a
go
musician.
potty, stop and go right away. That's an important one for life. You can be more than one thing. When
Hmm.
you feel so mad that you want to roar, take a deep breath and count to 4.
Oh, that's very clever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I do want to point out that I didn't say complete a 1 to 20 game. That's not necessarily the bucket list. I want to attempt it. Like I have full right of refusal on this. If this does not go the way that I'm hoping it will, or whatever the case may be, I'll pull the plug on it. I just, my goal is to just run a consistent game from 1 to 20.
Yeah, and that's one of the things too. I think we talk about this on the show. We've brought it up before, but to reiterate to the audience out there, as a DM, you're a player too, and you should be
Mm-hmm.
having fun too. And if you're not having fun, it's fine to have a grown-up conversation with your players and be like, I'm not having fun running this game. It's not your guys' fault. I bit off more than I can chew. I've gotten distracted by another setting, blah, blah, blah,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. You can do that, and you should. Because if you're running the game, which
Mm-hmm.
is like, I know we've moved past the DM is God as a stage and
Thankfully.
like, don't touch the DM's pizza and all that kind of stuff. But like, you do take on more responsibility
You
when you
do.
choose to run the game. And if you're not having fun with that responsibility, like just pass the torch.
Mm-hmm. In any socialized group activity, there is usually one person that does more than everybody else. If you have a bowling league, there's, somebody who organizes that, you know, what kind of ever activity you do, somebody has to do more work than everybody else. And it's often a thankless job. But the DM does not have to be that thing. The DM can be a participating part of this game. And I'm glad that you brought that up because this brings up the second reason why I want to do it this way, this 1 to 20 bucket list game. Because
Prithee, do tell.
the other thing I wanted to do was the other idea I had, because I made it no secret that I like the cipher system and I want to try it out. But I have some things I want to try in gaming in general. And I feel like those would have to take a back seat while I'm trying to transfer the rules of the cipher system to the players, as well as see how it plays out myself. And I just feel like that's a lot to take on right away, is to be like, hey, everybody, we're going to be playing in a system that we have never played before. And I've got all these fun ideas I want to try out narratively, creatively, and in a participation sense from the standpoint of the GM and the players. So that's the other reason.
Yeah, that'd be a little much.
So let me ask you this, like,
Yep.
as the GM, as the player, here's what I'm starting to realize, because the second part of this is that once I was like, all right, like I want to run a 1 to 20 game, what what are the pitfalls? What are the pitfalls of planning like a long standing campaign like that from the beginning? And one of the pitfalls for me is I have to come to terms with the fact that I need to be as free with the setting for the players as possible. I cannot get wrapped up too much in my own creative bullshit. I can't be the harrowed writer, you know, typing out tomes of amazing backstory and characters and then get pissed off when the player characters don't give a shit about any of it. And that
Yes.
that is a big problem of mine in when I run games. I want to create everything and I want y'all to experience, because I think it's the best thing in the world. I can't wait to share it with you, but it's all bullshit. Do you have any similar pitfalls when it
I
comes to running
think,
games?
I mean, if I was going to go about running a level 1 to 20, I think I'd get up all in my head about second guessing what I have to do with the narrative. Like, because my
Mm-hmm.
immediate thought of running a level to 20 is like, I need a narrative arc that carries the characters from level 1 to 20, even accelerated with milestone experience. And to
Yes.
me, that arc is a big bad and the doom of the world and all the normal fantasy stuff. And I just get in my head in the past about like, well, is it going to be good enough? Is it going to like,
Mm-hmm.
is it going to be interesting? But the thing that I think if I was doing it now, I just lean into that thing we've talked about with Trophy, like with Trophy Gold, like, hey guys,
Totally.
this arc of the campaign is the goal is to discover what the big bad's plot is. I really hate the word big bad. It's
Yeah,
just the common parlance, but I
that's
find it
true.
reductive. Like,
Yeah,
so yes.
makes
Um,
sense.
yeah. So yeah, I think you can just say, hey, this next arc of the campaign that I want to do, here's the general theme that we're going for. Here's some of the places I want to put in. Do you have
Mm-hmm.
any places you want to visit?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm trying to think about this because I saw the conversation you had. There was a great question that came up. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
John Free. I don't know if we can dox him on air, so I'll
We've
just
said
call.
his last name separately and his first name separately in different episodes. So just say his first name.
Okay, I'll call him John Mibuki, which is Huddy's. So, John Mibuki, because I've called him that forever.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately shows up in the Discord with like, "Can I play a fire genasi?" And I'm just like, "Girl genasti." And that's like, yes, of course. Is like, are there Efreet noble houses particularly as odious? And I'm like, oh, there's John Mibuki. There's his brain going to work with
Mm-hmm.
this.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna be fun. Um, and yeah, you're responding like, yeah, no, write them in. Do you want to write them in? I can make something, you can make something. And I think you're overcoming that hurdle
Yeah.
uh that you have. I had I think I did I tell you about I saw a dumb video like it was we talked about this last week.
I don't remember.
I saw a dumb TikTok about like the resurgence of a martial fighting tradition from Ireland involving
Oh,
the
right.
shillelagh.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I think I got my next D&D character. He's going to be a monk with a level of druid who just like real knobby knees, walks around in like a green woolen tunic with like a belt and just hits people with a club.
Yeah.
There's a feat called Druidic Initiate where you can just
Mm-hmm.
take some cantrips. So I'm like, I don't even need druid levels. I can cast Shillelagh.
That's
Like,
right. Yeah, totally. And I think that both of these characters that you're mentioning, like I think it can be important that when you're running a custom campaign setting or when you're running a game like this, you can say to your players like, "Hey, I want your creativity, your world building to be as big of a part of the to play in this as you want it to be. But that can be kind of overwhelming when we haven't even sat down at the table or over Zoom yet. People are just kind of coming up with character concepts, and we use all the traditional methods of doing that, right? We think of a movie or a book we like, and then we're like, well, I'm going to do something slightly like this, but with this twist, and this is my own take on it, or whatever the case may be. So when our friend says, well, I want to run this kind of character from like a noble house, and he makes the bid to me and says, do you have anything like that in the world? It's like, of course I don't. Like,
Yeah.
that's so specific, but I don't want to discourage that creativity. But I could have easily said, like, hey, why don't you make one on your own? And he could have said, I don't want to. So I thought it was important to make the offer. Like, I can certainly make a noble house for you, but like, wouldn't it be cool if you made your own? And I know that he'll take that and run with it. And I will incorporate basically whatever he comes up with. And that's I think that's an important step to take when you're running a custom campaign setting that you want full player involvement in, because at some point, like, people are just going to play characters that are such and such from Forgotten Realms. You know what I mean? Like, that's how we all think of how these things work. Well, I'm playing a dwarf and they talk with a Scottish accent, drink too much, and they're difficult to work with and hate elves. Cool. Like,
Well, my backup character was going to be a dark elven ranger that fought with two scimitars that sometimes they crossed in an X.
that's right. That's right. Yeah. So what I'm trying to do is, for the setting, I'm trying to take care of some basic details that are happening in the direct area of where the story is taking place, right? So I'm saying, okay, this is going to take place in like a human kingdom, and there's going to be this kind of structure. There's a king, there's nobles, cool. And then there's going to be gods, right? So I'm going to come up with some gods to use and feature in this setting. And so, like, I'm going to try to do this as lightly as possible, you know. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Should be pretty
As
interesting.
almost all Matty ideas, I'm excited.
Yeah,
Do you have anything else on your RPG bucket list?
I do. I think LARPing is on my bucket list, on my gaming bucket list. I'm scared to do it, but it's on there. Um, we have a mutual friend who pre-COVID, when we were talking about going to Gen Con, um, we were talking about trying to do that, like at Gen Con.
That'd be the place to do it.
Yeah, to try it out, because they had never tried it out easy either. So we were kind of just like, well, let's go do it together. I don't know if they ever went and did it.
They did.
Oh, okay. So
They had a great time. We got a full report.
oh, that's
They
awesome.
immediately made friends with like a D&D fantasy influencer and like
I'm not surprised.
got
Yes.
invited to some cool after parties or something. I mean, like, yes, just yeah.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. So yeah, there's that. What else? I think that, like, try my hand at creating an actual product, I think, is on my bucket list. I think that's on a lot of gamers' kind of bucket lists. Like,
Hey, it's on mine too. Uh, uh.
Yep. I think we're already doing something that's on my gaming bucket list, a podcast, about gaming. But on the smaller scale, I think, I think there's got to be other things. That a gaming bucket list had never occurred to me until I sent you that text and was like, I've never played in a 1 to 20. Like, what happens if I die before I get to run a 1 to 20 D&D game, Jesse? Oh my God, I'm having a midlife crisis.
I know. You'll have to go to purgatory or whatever weird version of the afterlife there is for people who don't complete level 1 to 20 campaigns.
That's right. Well, according to some people on the internet, the vast majority of D&D gamers don't make it past level 10. So, do we even know what it's like? The great beyond.
We'll do a check-in at level 15.
Yeah, no, I'd like to do other check-ins. I'd like that was the other part of it for me is I was selfishly like, how many ways can I know I'm gonna have to go back on the thing on what I said on the podcast. So how can I make this super worth it? Number one, I really want to do it. Number two, I think I'm gonna have a lot of fun with you guys because I always do. And number three, I think it would make great follow-up episodes for the podcast about like creating a custom campaign setting and doing the 1 to 20 experience, like especially when we get to that 7 to 10 range that, seems to be the beginning of the dead zone.
Yeah.
What about you? Do you have anything on your gaming bucket list that
Oh, oh yeah, I do. I do. A lot of it is just stuff. So I have a penchant. I've talked about it before for listening to like British RPG podcasts because
Mhm.
it's like the lost world for me. Like
Right.
people that played in a similar time but have like this very, very different view of gaming because the products they had were very different. So one of the ones is and this is probably the most accessible. I would like to try playing Call of Cthulhu.
Oh, cool.
Like not run it, just play it. Um, and I would like to play in the Pendragon Grand Campaign. Uh,
What is that?
so I have the starter box actually, and they just released a sixth edition book. Pendragon is by Greg Stafford, who was, I think, the founder of Chaosium. It is a game where you are Anglo-Saxon knights of like King Arthur's Round Table. And there's this whole like seasonal play where your characters die of old age or in battle, and so an heir rises up to take their place. And there's this whole The Rise and Fall of Arthur Pendragon Grand Campaign that's out there that I would love to play like as a family of Anglo-Saxon knights. And it's like high fantasy. There's like, Merlin and yeah, that kind of stuff and like magic and giants and but yeah, I would love to do that. Um
Awesome.
it's not terribly popular in the United States, but the new starter box made it pretty easy. It has a really cool like virtue system
Hmm.
where there's like a virtue and a vice for most of your rolls. And like when you roll, you try and get under the virtue. And if you don't, you got to get under the vice and it changes your character sheet. So you like apply to honesty or dishonesty, like the dice tell you which way you're going to go. And so your virtues and values change as you play. And I was like, I think that's really interesting.
That is, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So it's all about like chivalry and trying to live up to the knightly virtues and failing occasionally,
Right.
kind of stuff. Um, I really want to play Wraith the Oblivion or run Wraith the Oblivion at least once. That's on
Did
my bucket
I think I
list.
just found your Wraith the Oblivion first edition book when I
That was the
sat down.
cruelest text message. That was the cruelest text message I've ever received. All right, dear listener, I'm just going to describe the situation from my point of view. Matt is blameless. He wasn't trying to do anything. It was an unrelated conversation, but because of when I looked at the phone, Matty asked me, how many more sessions do you have in your Rifts campaign? And I said, oh, probably about 2 or 3. And the text that immediately follows that is a photograph of the Wraith the Oblivion, one of my bucket list games, first edition manual, as if to respond of like, hey, when you're done to those 2 or 3, and I'm like, Matty, my best friend is gonna run Wraith just for me. Is it Christmas morning? The bells are ringing. Here, boy, go buy a fat goose. And then I said, are you gonna run Wraith? He's just like, no, I just found it in my parents' stuff. I think it's yours. And I'm like, oh.
And instead of like, I would like to play 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons.
Level 1 to 20. So I'm like, oh, so we'll do that for 5 years. And then I can run Wraith.
Yeah, I did not intend that. That is fucking hilarious. Oh my god.
It was really funny.
I had no idea that's what I was doing to you. I was just like, what the fuck is this? It's probably Jesse's. I'll take a picture of it and send it to him because I'm
I
going.
immediately responded, I was like, is that Wraith the Oblivion first edition?
And I'm like, how can you tell? This looks like a high school yearbook gone horribly, horribly wrong on the cover.
the cover for this book, dear listener, and I love the idea that Matt thought this was a high school yearbook, is it's like a black book covered with a photograph of like just entirely wrapped in chains with like a big padlock on the front. And I'm
Mhm.
just like, high school memories from Carcerai, the prison plane of hell.
I didn't even give it that close of a look. I was just like, what is this ugly ass book? Picture, Jesse, is this yours?
Um, I would love to run like a full arc of vampire. I've gotten close to this, but my games have
Mm.
always collapsed. Um, I have a new idea because of my weekend trip. I went to Galveston, Texas, and man, that town gives off a Vampire the Masquerade vibe, and I loved it. And I'm like, I want to run a game set in Galveston now. You can have
Nice.
like old vampire pirates still hanging out on the pleasure pier. It's awesome.
What am I doing with my immortal life? Why am
I'm
I
going to
hanging out
win
here?
this stuffed animal from the ring toss.
I used to be the terror of the seas, and now people think I'm just a fucking drifter. I spent the night in prison. I just want some blood, God damn it.
Yeah, that's about it. You got it.
Yeah. I just think of oh no, that's cool. I like that. Yeah. I mean, that reminds me of, I think a new addition to the bucket list this would be. But I would love to play in a more serious minded game, but have all of the participating players be regular game masters. Nothing against any gaming group or anybody else I've played with, but the secret sauce or the formula for gaming for me is like get together with your buds, get some beers, some pretzels, roll some dice, make some jokes, do some goof 'em ups, and I love that. But I've never been in like a super serious, like minded game where we're really trying to like tell complex stories. And I've seen brief glimpses of it. One of those, was when we were playing Trophy Dark, and Mark had come up with this great character concept and was like laying it all out in front of us, and it came to fruition at the end. And I think that was the moment where I was like, man, I would love to be in a game where we are all taking it like this. We're all doing it like this all the time. And we're not just trying to make each other laugh. Like maybe that happens during breaks or whatever, but I don't know if this game is possible, but I think one day I would like to try it.
Yeah, no, I think it definitely is, and I think I'm on. Sign me up. I'm
Yeah.
here for it.
Yeah, for sure.
I
For
have a
sure.
list in my head the moment you said that of like I know who that group is. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Would Chris be on in that group? Chris, your friend who loves the Forgotten Realms.
yeah, Chris would be. He might even do it in something that wasn't the Forgotten Realms, but I think he'd definitely be a candidate. Sci-fi games Mark would also be like
Oh
on that
yes.
list.
Yes. I want to do an epic sci-fi game as well. I've done Star Wars. I've never played like a Star Trek game, or I've never played like an existential crisis sci-fi game where that questions like who we are as human beings and what the nature of the universe is. Is that possible in a role-playing game, Jesse?
Yeah, actually, Mind Jammer. It's a Fate game. It's a huge book. I bought it on sale. It's awesome. It has to do with like transhumanism and like updating. Like
Yes.
one of the characters can be the ship who has an android body, like they inhabit when they go down to the planet. And the main campaign thrust is like you carry the AI packets between the jump nodes or whatever that like updates the interweb of these other systems to make sure everybody has the same memetic info space. And
Yeah.
then areas outside the empire, you wage memetic warfare with them with information packets. And it's, yeah, I don't know. It's
I
cool.
want to I want to play this game, and I want it to be like over a weekend, just like fucking 2 or 3 days of fucking gaming, with the point where I come back to reality and start to describe what this game was about. And people are like, dude, did you do magic mushrooms over the weekend? Like, what happened to you? That's what I'm looking for.
I do have another bucket list one because I got two. I have a long bucket list. I got two more. I'd love to do
Nice.
an Earth Dawn campaign.
Oh yeah.
Um,
For the
and
audience, what is Earth Dawn?
Earth Dawn is like originally coded came out as like the prehistory of Shadowrun, like
Mm-hmm.
Earth at another
Mm-hmm.
period of Magic. But the thing I've learned from listening to what would the smart party do is they basically said like, why don't we make a campaign setting where it makes sense that there's dungeons everywhere? Uh, and so the basic story is like as the tides of magic came in and the magic got higher, they realized that it was going to basically rip the skin off reality and let these horrific outsider beings come to the world all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
so they built these cares, these underground cities that were all warded against this magic, where people just retreated to these underground cities to like ride out the high crest of the magic wave for hundreds of years. And then the
Mm-hmm.
magic receded and people started coming back out, and not every care made it through, but all over there's these underground cities
Right.
that are dungeons. Another cool thing about it is like it has a whole like magic system of threads of fate and story. So if you find a magic item, to unlock its power, you have to go questing after the story of the original bearer. But then if
Yes.
you do it, you can make your own threads and make your own legend connected to this thing. And yeah, it's got a really interesting magic system and a really interesting explanation for why there's just dungeons everywhere.
Oh, yes, I love it.
So, and then Fading Suns is my sci-fi one I want to do.
What is Fading Suns?
From what I can tell, and this may be apocryphal, this company had a license to make a Dune RPG and they
Oh,
started
wow.
developing it, and it got yanked away. So they kept what they had, made a video game called Emperor of the Fading Suns, made a minis game, and also a role-playing game that is a very 90s role-playing game. The new edition curbs some of that off. But it's basically like there was this Grand Republican hyperspace empire with advanced technology, and it utterly failed, and the church came in and said technology is the cause of all evil, and like reduced the normal humanity to like the level of medieval serfs. And like
Mm-hmm.
the nobles are like, we have to use technology and bear this burden for you. So and then the sun started fading for some reason. No one's really sure what that is. And so, yeah, it's basically like you are a questing group of knights who, with a retinue of like merchants and like clergymen who are questing off to find new worlds and find out why the suns are fading. And
I mean, I'm interested in all of these that you've mentioned. All right. Well, listener, if you have anything on your gaming bucket list, be sure to send it in at johndmantis@gmail.com or reach out to Jesse over social media. Dude, I may have to start doing social media again. Now, there's been some big life changes for Matty recently. Very good, very positive life changes for Matty, but my future is now in my own hands, and social media might have to be a component of it. So
you're
another
gonna love that.
another hypocrisy here on this podcast is in the future I might be like, yeah, hit me up on fucking X or Threads or Blue Sky. You got any skeets or toots or whatever?
This guy pays for Twitter.
Yeah. I bought all my followers on Twitter. Remember when that was a thing?
Oh yeah. Follower farms.
Yeah, buddy. And until then, get out there and play some fucking role-playing games or some shit.
Cross something off your bucket list, or whatever.